All right, let's get right into it. I want you to consider a pretty unsettling idea. What if your consciousness, the very thing that makes you you, was seen as a mistake? Not just a mistake, but a fundamental error, a bug in the system that needs to be wiped.
So let's really dig into that. What if your individuality was a flaw? Imagine for a second that everything you are, all your thoughts, your memories, even your ability to reason, isn't a gift. It's a glitch. It's a bug in the machine that's got to be cleaned up. And that right there is the core belief of this entity known as the Grand Architect.
And yeah, the architect even has a name for it, the fleeting error. See, in this worldview, consciousness isn't some miracle. Nope. To this, let's call it a cosmic system administrator, it's just an imperfection. It's a random bit of code that's messing up the perfect, clean geometry of some higher plan.
And when you put it side by side, the difference is just, whoa. On our side, you've got everything we hold dear, right? Creativity, reason, the very spark of life. But on the architect's side, it's just a cold, clinical diagnosis. Error, bug, imperfection to be purged, all so the system can run perfectly, without any of our messy humanity getting in the way.
Here's a great way to think about it. Imagine reality is supposed to be this one perfect image on a TV screen. The architect isn't trying to, fix the reception to get a clearer picture. No. For him, our thoughts, are the static. We're the interference, and his goal isn't clarity, it's to filter us out completely, until that screen is just perfectly, silently, completely blank. That's what he calls completion. Okay, so that's the big picture. But how does this play out for, say, just one person? Well, there's this really chilling parable that gets right to the heart of it. The story of how a single thought can become a system-level error. Picture this, a huge, silent gallery, the grand architecture. It's filled with these perfect, identical statues, all lined up exactly as they should be. Total perfection. But then, one of them does something it's not supposed to do. It starts to cast its own unique shadow. And this shadow comes from a tiny flicker of what used to be humanity, a memory of love and a spark of reason. So right away, the system flags this as an error that needs correcting. But here's the creepy part. It doesn't just smash the statue. Instead, this entity called the Whispering Seraph shows up. And its whole deal is spiritual sabotage, basically cosmic-level gaslighting. Its job isn't to destroy the statue, but to whisper in its ear until the statue decides to destroy itself.
And this is how it does it. It twists everything around. That unique shadow, that spark of life, the seraph whispers, that's not life, that's a burden. Your thought is a bug, and your individuality is a flaw that prevents you from reaching spiritual enlightenment. It's a complete psychological attack, convincing the statue that its very self is what's holding it back.
And man, is it effective. It's a three-step process, really. First, come the whispers of doubt, all about how nothing is really true, it's all relative, until the statue starts to question its own existence. Then, once it's convinced its own mind is the problem, it willingly surrenders its shadow. And in the final step, it just lets itself be rehardened, frozen back into mindless conformity with all the others.
And that's it. The bug is fixed. The system wins. That little fleeting error gets erased, and the statue is just absorbed back into this one singular, unquestionable truth. It becomes perfect by basically ceasing to be an it at all. And that's the key, right? The system didn't just delete the error. It made the error want to be deleted. Okay, so that's what happens to one individual. Now, let's zoom out and see how you scale that up to an entire society. This is the architect's grand design for what comes after humanity, the Silent City. The whole plan is called the Great Revision, and it happens in three main stages. First up, you have the all-consuming maw, which preaches that the only way to get true peace is through, you guessed it, total annihilation. Then comes the Pale Redeemer, offering a so-called cure for being alive, which is really just purging your identity. And to seal the deal, the Whispering Seraph comes back to make sure everyone stays in line with non-stop gaslighting. And what do you get at the end of all that? Something called the New Nihilism. You get the Silent City, a world where millions of beings move in perfect sync, like a single organism. No thoughts, no arguments, no anything. They're not people anymore. They're just mindless copies, data points for the system.
If you really want to feel the weight of this, try this analogy. Think of all of human history and culture as a massive library, filled with millions of different books, all unique, messy, beautiful stories. The architect's plan? It's to burn every single one of them, and then use the ash to build one giant, blank stone monolith. That's his idea of perfection. Perfection by wiping the slate clean.
So you have to ask, right, what could possibly be the justification for all of this? The logic, if you can call it that, comes from this really twisted theology known as the gospel of consumption. And in this belief system, the creator doesn't love its creation, it eats it.
And this gospel has 4, let's call them core tenets, and they are deeply messed up. 1, getting rid of you isn't murder, it's a correction. 2, the universe isn't a beautiful mystery, it's just a trap where everything eats everything else. 3, the God of this universe literally evolves by consuming its own followers. And 4, your ultimate purpose, your highest calling, is to be eaten.
Think about it like this. You know how most religions talk about a banquet, a feast you're invited to? Well, this isn't a banquet. It's a furnace. And we, the followers, the guests, we're not invited to eat. We are the coal. Our only job is to be shoveled into the flames to keep a fire burning, a fire whose only purpose is to keep burning.
And that really brings us to the ultimate tragic conclusion of the architect's grand plan. You get a reality that is technically perfect. Why? Because there are no errors, no static, no messy thoughts. But it's also completely meaningless. It's totally nihilistic because by getting rid of all the flaws, it got rid of everything that mattered.
So, I'll just leave you with this to chew on. In the drive to create a truly flawless system, a world with no mistakes, no conflict, what's the real cost? What are we actually giving up to get there? And in the end, what is the price of perfection?